So recently, back in March, I featured an album by the Australian band The Meanies. It was the album 10% Weird. Love that album. Was one of my first albums, punk albums, back in the day. I had borrowed it from my friend Timbo, who then never got it back. But I love that album, right? So it's a great album. So I featured it back in March, but unfortunately, the band was really busy at the time. They were about to go on tour for their album Desperate Measures that came out in 2001. All right, great album. You should really check that one out too. Awesome. But regardless, I wasn't able to set up the interview until recently. I got a hold of the lead singer Link McLennan the second on Facebook, and we set up a little Zoom meeting, and I filmed it, and we're about to jump right into that shit right now. Check it out. Everybody shout, come on, sing out. It's time for the meetings, get together. So, tell me how the Meanies first all got started. Like, how'd you first come about?
It started with a conversation in the toilets at a place called what's the venue? I've totally forgotten the name of the venue now, but I just met the guy who would become the guitarist of the band, and we just started talking music and had a lot in common, and just started looking around for people. We ended up, I think, getting his housemate ended up playing bass on it, but he was kind of like a little bit too talented for the band at the time, and I think he got a bit bored with it. He was like a really good bass player, and I think what we were doing was probably a little too boring for him. But so then we ended up getting our manager at the time, Wally Kempton, to join on bass, and he's been with us ever since. But it was touch and go for a moment there, because he rocked up with like one of those McCartney Beatle violin basses, and yeah, we're kind of like,
Okay, so I couldn't help but notice how prolific you guys were between. Wait a second here, I got my questions all lined up here. Between 1990 and 1991, you guys released 8 or more different 7-inches. Tell me about that era.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy, and I just felt like I was constantly having to write stuff. But I mean, some of the songs probably suffered for it, because I was just like churning them out. I was like a one-man brill building in in Victoria. But I mean, I'm quite fond of some of those songs. But obviously, I think what we're doing now is a lot better. Like our last album we did, Desperate Measures, to me is easily the best record we've done. Just in terms of just being a good cohesive record, and I look at some of the older records, even ones I like 10% Weird, and there's some songs on there which are, I'd probably erase if I could. But that's all part of sort of maturing as a songwriter. And so you want something? Yeah, you can go past. It's all right. We're all friends here. That's my ex-wife.
Came out in 1992. Great album.
Thank you.
Will you tell me a little bit about that one?
Oh, God. It's like so long ago, it's hard to think of anything to tell you about it. Once again, there's songs on there that, I mean, lyrically and whatever, when you look back at the songs you did when you were pretty young, you're sort of like, some of them are, I wouldn't say embarrassing, but they're just kind of like a bit ham-fisted, and
it seemed like you guys were having fun at the time, so
yeah, we were having fun, of course. Well, sometimes. I was a pretty miserable prick myself, but so it wouldn't have been easy to tour with back then. I was kind of once again, my peculiar mental quirks were probably pretty hard to be around. So I've got to give kudos to the rest of the guys who are putting up with me. But that record, I'm just trying to think. I can't remember that much detail about it, but I think we recorded that before we recorded the EP that we released before it, but for some reason it got delayed and we ended up releasing like an EP or two before it.
Awesome. There was so you released 2 compilations that it was the Meanie of Life and Televolution.
That was a US release, that one, yeah. Televolution.
Do those cover all the 7 inches up to that point? Because it's almost impossible to collect all them 7 inches at this point in time. So
yeah, look, I used to have like triples of them, and going through a couple of different relationships, they kind of disappeared at some stage. So I'm a bit pissed off about that, but I, to be honest, I'd have to. You'll realise that I'm a really terrible person to interview because I just can't remember anything. But I'd have to look at the record, and I don't actually have a copy of it anymore. So I think yeah, Meaning of Life and Televolution probably covered most of it, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! Because as a completionist, you know, I try to collect it all. Right. So let's move on to 10% Weird. This is one of my favorite albums. Like I said, it introduced me to punk rock in general.
That's made my day when you said that. That's really nice.
Yeah. What can you tell me about the recording and releasing of that album?
Well, that was recorded at Egg Studios with, I think it's Conrad Uno, I think. I'm terrible with names. We're basically heading over to do a European tour, and we just stopped in Seattle for a couple of weeks and did a couple of shows and recorded an album. What I remember most about it is like that a lot of the songs didn't have lyrics yet, and I was writing them on the plane going over. So once again, there's a couple that probably suffered for that lack of, I wouldn't say effort, but lack of time spent on it. But I think it's a pretty good record. There's once again a couple of songs which I find a bit kind of like cheesy and whatever, but I think for the most part it's a pretty good record.
Oh yeah, it's a solid album.
Thank you.
Take a look at the family tree.
Right, and then you released a couple EP or singles or EPs. It was like the Conan and then a 10% Weird single. And then you guys went on a hiatus till what was it, 2008? But there was
no, look, we basically stopped in about what was it, 95, 96. I quit the band, and then sort of went off and I didn't do any music for like a couple of years, and my girlfriend at the time basically begged me to do a band because I was a pain in the ass, just sitting around like a hermit and not in a good state of mind. So I obliged and started a band called the Tomorrow People, which was kind of a little more poppy 60s, jangly guitar-y kind of stuff. And then I think in the late 90s, 5, 6, 7, 8s from Japan, who we'd played with in Japan in the early 90s, were coming to Australia, and they just asked if we could play with them. We went together at the time. And so we said, yeah, all right, we'll just do that. And then we kept going. So.
Okay, there was a couple of releases while you guys were on the hiatus. Whose the decision was it to release, like the 6 suitable tracks and the Secrets of the Ancients Revealed?
That was an interesting time. I was still kind of like in my kind of like frustrated kind of wanting to do different styles of music, and it really shouldn't have impacted on the Meanies, but it did. So there's a few songs that were kind of very un-Meanie-like, and a lot of them didn't actually make it onto record, but I think we're looking at releasing maybe a double album with kind of like the songs from those records that were, and that recording session that were kind of more Meanie-esque, and the second one will be kind of like all the kind of non-typical stuff, kind of like this, like it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I was on, but there's like a funk song, there's like a country, it's just ridiculous disco song. It's a bit like that. What's that Bad Religion album, Into the Unknown? Yeah. So that was our version of that.
That's hilarious. Returned to the scene and made a pretty good comeback. Let's see, what was your first release?
That would have been It's Not Me, It's You, I think.
Yeah, that album was awesome.
Thank you. It's a little scattered because like it's a lot. Some of the songs were really old, kind of songs that Wally had demos of, and he'd be bugging me to record them for like decades. And there was some newer ones on there as well. But so it's to me, I think it's a good record, but because I'm close to it, it feels a little fractured or whatever, even though I think it's a good record. That's why I love Desperate Measures so much, because it was like, just feels very complete to me. It's like cohesive. It's written as an album, you know.
Just keep bashing your skull with a rusty mace.
Yeah. Let's talk about Desperate Measures a little more. I freaking love that. I was kind of blown away because I actually missed out on It's Not Me, It's You until Desperate Measures come out, and then I realized, oh my goodness, they're back together, and like I ended up able to catch up on everything else, but Desperate Measures blew my mind. I was like, you guys hadn't missed a beat, and like you said, even gotten better. To
me, I think my songwriting is a lot better. I have a lot more sort of quality control, internal quality control going on. And, I spend more time. I used to be really lazy in the studio, particularly early on. I just want to do shit in one take and think, that's all right. And try, and I didn't understand about engineering and sonic theft and all that sort of stuff. So I just go, turn the bass up, kind of screwed with the recordings a little bit at times, but I sort of got a lot more knowledge now. So that recording process was really smooth and didn't skimp on spending time on, like the performances and.
Recently went on a tour. How did that go?
It was painful. I've sort of, my body is pretty fucked, from just doing those sorts of shows for many years. So I'd already kind of like got these kind of chronic sort of pain, throughout my whole body, and then trying to do shows like I used to when I was 22 or whatever. You sort of wake up the next morning after the first show and go, oh shit, But I only know one way to do the show, so it just means self-medicating and getting through. And to me, it's a lot more fun than it was back then. I was a miserable prick, and I kind of, to me, this is the happiest time in the band for me, and I dare say for everyone else, because I'm not as annoying as I was back then.
I'd like to meet you, I'd like to tell you about the today. We could take something, my best at you.